One of the captain's assistants suggests using their weapons against the creatures, but the captain calmly explains that their weapons would be useless. As enormous monsters launch an attack on the hunters, the group struggles, being picked off one by one. Just when the situation seems dire, another group of higher-ranked hunters arrives to assist. They heal and protect the struggling team, displaying impressive coordination and strength. Suddenly, a powerful enemy appears before them. The two groups join forces and swiftly defeat the foe with their combined attacks. However, as the battle ends, they notice an even larger horde of enemies approaching. 10 years ago, gates connecting to another dimension opened worldwide, unleashing hordes of monsters. Humanity adapted by gaining special abilities, with individuals being classified into ranks S, A, B, C, D, and E. In the bustling city, a young man named Kim stops by a cafe to buy coffee. He runs into his friend Park, who excitedly tells him about his plans to join a hunt to support his growing family, as his wife just gave birth to another child. Soon, Sung Jin-woo joins them, his body covered in bandages. Despite his injuries, he smiles warmly, happy to see his friends. Kim jokingly refers to Sung as the weakest weapon of humanity, but Sung hears the comment and brushes it off. Joo-hee, a healer in the group, notices his injuries and urges him to be more careful. Sung explains that he got hurt during an E-rank dungeon raid. Their team leader, Song Chi-yul, formally introduces himself, and the group prepares to enter a new portal. Sung, armed only with a small knife, gathers his courage and steps into the dungeon with the others. The chairman overseeing the operation explains to other officials how humanity relies on the resources gathered from monsters, such as magical crystals. These crystals are valuable, serving as a new energy source, and can also be refined into weapons. However, only hunters can extract them, making them vital to the economy. The group navigates the dungeon, and Song kills one of the monsters, extracting a crystal. Suddenly, a goblin ambushes him. Song attempts to, but kill is struck in the chest by the goblin's dagger. Park swiftly kills the goblin, and Joo-hee heals Sung, chastising him for his recklessness. Meanwhile, higher-ranking leaders discuss the significance of magical ore obtained from monster bodies. They view it as a breakthrough in weapon and energy production. Back in the dungeon, the group defeats the boss. Joo-hee expresses her concern for Sung, while another member notices a hidden entrance. Despite protocol requiring them to report the discovery, they decide to investigate further. The group is divided, and the final decision falls to Song, who agrees to proceed. The group ventures deeper into the mysterious dungeon. Tensions rise as they traverse dark, winding corridors for hours. Sung apologizes to Joo-hee for causing trouble, but she scolds him, demanding he buy her a meal as compensation. Eventually, they reach a massive chamber where Sung announces they've found the boss room. In the city, Gun-hee-go, the head of the Hunters Guild, welcomes new recruits, warning them about the hidden dangers and traps lurking in dungeons. Inside the boss room, the group finds themselves surrounded by countless statues, but no monsters. The eerie silence unsettles everyone. Joo-hee notices something peculiar. The eyes of one statue move. Carved inscriptions on the walls warn, "No one shall leave these walls alive." Suddenly, the doors slam shut, trapping them inside. One of the hunters, frustrated and impatient, tries to force his way out, but a statue strikes him down instantly, killing him in one blow. Sung, shaken, realizes that the fallen hunter was far stronger than him. He stares at a nearby statue, only to see its eyes turn toward him. Memories of his struggles as an E-rank hunter flood his mind, getting lost in dungeons, facing monsters alone, and enduring the same cycle of danger every day. The tension rises as the statues come alive. One fires a blast of flames, killing another member of the group. Sung finally understands they are trapped in a deadly game, and survival is far from guaranteed. The group is paralyzed with fear, unsure of what to do. One of the members warns everyone to stay perfectly still, believing that the statues won't attack as long as they don't move. Sung Jin-woo tries to comfort Joo-hee. Song Chi-yul approaches Sung and thanks him for warning the group earlier about the statue's attack. Sung notices that the leader is missing an arm. He explains that the dungeon they've entered is unlike any they've encountered before. Though classified as a B-rank dungeon, Song grimly speculates that the creatures here must be at least A rank, or even S rank. His tone is heavy with dread, a stark reminder that their survival hangs by a thread. Song recounts the inscriptions on the wall, which state that one must worship the Lord to survive. Meanwhile, at a school in the city, Gina, Sung's younger sister, is questioned by her friend Song Yi about her brother's whereabouts. Gina explains that her brother is an E-rank hunter and very weak. Back in the dungeon, one of the group members loses his composure. Overcome with rage, he activates a speed skill and recklessly charges forward. A statue responds instantly, firing a blast of flames that incinerates him on the spot. Sung recalls the inscription about worshiping the Lord and realizes it might hold the key to survival. He urges the group to bow before the central statue. As everyone kneels, the statue's expression changes to a faint smile, signaling that they have done something right. Believing the ordeal is over, Park decides to stand up, but the central statue suddenly rises and starts walking toward them. The group speculates that they now need to sing praises. One man begins praying but makes the mistake of worshipping the wrong god. The statue crushes him mercilessly. Moments later, the statue stomps on a fleeing woman, killing her instantly. Chaos erupts as the group panics and scatters. Park, thinking of his family, attempts to evade the statues but is struck down by another. Sung analyzes the situation, trying to form a plan, but more people are killed around him. He notices that standing too close to the statues seems to provoke them further. While dodging an attack, Sung is thrown toward another statue. Barely alive, he drags himself to its base. The statue seems to calm down, confirming his theory that proximity matters. Meanwhile, Joo-hee notices that one of their comrades has lost a leg in the chaos. When the immediate danger subsides, the survivors turn on each other, blaming one another for their predicament. Among the remaining inscriptions, they discover the third commandment: a sacrificial offering must be made. The group debates who will make the ultimate sacrifice. Song volunteers, but his attempt to appease the altar fails. Sung asks to be taken closer to the altar, examining it carefully. He realizes that waiting for outside help is not an option, as the gates to this dungeon only recently appeared. It would take at least 7 days for the break to fully occur, and if they don't succeed, the central statue could escape into the city and wreak havoc. In the city, Gina visits her hospitalized mother and shares her worries about Sung. Back in the dungeon, Sung instructs the group to gather around the altar. As the lights above the altar ignite, a door opens. However, the statues in the room begin to move toward them. Sung realizes that the blue flames above the altar signify their time limit. As long as the flames burn, they must remain still and avoid provoking the statues. One woman, overwhelmed by fear, tries to run. The moment she escapes, one of the flames extinguishes. Another man follows, and Sung pleads with the remaining members to stay put, explaining that their survival depends on the flames. Despite his efforts, another hunter flees. The leader, Song Chi-yul, tells Sung and the others to run, but Joo-hee's legs give out from exhaustion and fear. Sung begs the others to save her, but Song makes the selfish decision to knock her unconscious and escape with the remaining survivors. Left alone, Sung grabs a sword, determined to fight. The statues respond immediately, attacking him with overwhelming force. One of the statues severs his arm, leaving him on the verge of death. In this desperate moment, Sung realizes the true nature of Song's selfishness. Thinking of his own family, Sung decides he doesn't want to die. As a statue prepares to deliver the final blow, a notification appears before his eyes. You have received a quest. Failure to accept will result in death in 0.2 seconds. Sung Jin-woo chooses to accept the mysterious offer to become a player. When he awakens, he finds himself in a hospital bed, stunned to see that both his arms and legs are intact. Shortly after, 2 visitors enter his room: Woo Jin-chul, an inspector from the Hunters Association, and Kang Tae-shik. They inform him that he has been unconscious for 3 days. The inspectors explain that the survivors from the dungeon incident are traumatized and have vowed never to enter a dungeon again. After the survivors escaped, the White Tiger Guild was sent in to investigate, but they found nothing. No temple, no statues, and no signs of what had happened except for Sung. Woo Jin-chul mentions that if there had been any inconsistencies or suspicious behavior, Sung would have been a suspect. He also questions whether Sung experienced a second awakening, speculating that he might have reawakened as a higher-rank hunter. To confirm, they measure Sung's strength, but the results show no improvement. He is still classified as a civilian. Satisfied, the inspectors leave. As Sung processes what happened, he notices a glowing blue screen hovering in front of him, a game-like interface. When his younger sister Gina visits him, she expresses her worry about his condition. Curious, Sung asks if she can see the screen, but she doesn't notice anything unusual. Left alone, Sung examines the interface and discovers a daily quest. The screen warns of penalties for failure. Meanwhile, Woo Jin-chul files a report about Sung, noting that there is nothing unusual about him. Elsewhere, high-ranking hunter Choi Jong-in requests that a healer from a higher rank accompany an E-rank team on a raid. In the city, a massive gate suddenly appears in the middle of the road, drawing attention from the public and officials. As time ticks down on Sung's daily quest, he fails to complete it and is forcibly transported to a strange dungeon as a penalty. There, he receives a survival quest. Endure 2 hours of relentless pursuit by monsters. Sung struggles to survive, running for his life, but eventually succeeds. When he awakens again in the hospital, he realizes the experience was real. He tells Joo-hee, who visits him, that he will soon be discharged. During their conversation, Joo-hee notices Sung jogging outside, surprised by his sudden burst of energy. Sung has come to terms with his new reality. The interface isn't a hallucination, and he can allocate stat points like in a video game. For completing his daily quest, Sung receives a loot box which contains a mysterious key. At the same time, the news covers the sudden appearance of gates around the city. Sung visits his mother in the hospital, reminiscing about her battle with the incurable illness known as eternal sleep. The doctors can only keep her condition stable, which drives Sung to work tirelessly, even taking on construction jobs. He remembers how his life changed when a recruiter suggested he become a hunter, and how he barely survived his first encounter with a monster thanks to a rescue team. Determined to grow stronger, Sung invests all his stat points into strength. Using the key from the loot box, he unlocks a mysterious door and enters an event dungeon. Sung quickly realizes that the only way out is to clear the dungeon entirely. His first challenge comes in the form of 3 goblins that ambush him. Armed with only a knife, Sung fends off their attacks, using his newfound strength and agility to defeat them one by one. Just as he catches his breath, a feral wolf appears and charges at him. During the struggle, the wolf's strength shatters Sung's knife, leaving him defenseless against the savage creature. Sung Jin-woo notices his legs trembling as fear and exhaustion take hold of him. The wolf lunges directly at him, but he narrowly dodges, gathering all his remaining strength to strike it with a desperate punch. Realizing he needs better equipment, he scrambles back to his backpack and remembers the weapons stored in his inventory. Drawing the blade, Sung faces the wolves again. With a decisive swing, he slices through another wolf, feeling a surge of confidence as he realizes these creatures are not as formidable as they initially seemed. After defeating them, he levels up, reaching level 2. Sung begins to understand that leveling up will grant him more stat points, which will make him stronger. As a reward for defeating the wolves, he also receives various items and begins to comprehend the mechanics of the game-like system he's now bound to. Spotting a store icon in his interface, Sung contemplates whether he can afford to purchase better equipment. However, before he can act, another pack of wolves appears, forcing him into another relentless battle. Determined, Sung fights fiercely, killing one wolf after another. With each kill, his strength and agility improve, and he climbs to even higher levels. After defeating the pack, Sung earns a new title, Wolf Slayer, and collects 34 wolf fangs as loot. However, his sword is now badly damaged, its blade barely holding together. A portal appears before him, offering a chance to escape the dungeon. Sung hesitates, torn between returning to safety and pressing on to face greater challenges. Ultimately, he decides to continue his journey. Meanwhile, Joo-hee receives a call from the Hunters Association, reprimanding her for declining a raid mission that led to a portal break. She is troubled by the news but remains concerned about Sung's well-being. As Sung ventures deeper into the dungeon, he notices that the icons above his enemies have changed, indicating an increase in their difficulty. Descending to a lower level, he encounters a massive and unusually fast snake. The creature launches a powerful attack, flinging him aside like a ragdoll. Sung struggles to find a way to penetrate its tough scales. The snake strikes again, and Sung is sent flying into a pool of water. To his shock, the serpent hurls an abandoned train car at him, showcasing its overwhelming strength. For a moment, Sung feels despair, realizing he had overestimated how much stronger he had become. Memories of his childhood flood back, reminding him of the times he was bullied and underestimated. Fueled by a newfound resolve, Sung declares to himself that he will become strong, no matter the cost. With this determination, he continues to fight the snake, dodging its attacks and searching for an opening. Finally, he discovers a weak point in its armor and drives his hand directly through its scales, killing the serpent. As the snake writhes in its death throes, Sung gains another level and realizes that he has grown a little stronger once again. Among the loot, he finds a snake fang blade, crafted from the serpent's fang, a weapon far superior to his previous sword. Victorious, Sung completes the dungeon and steps out of the subway system where the event dungeon had transported him. Outside, he hears alarms blaring and learns about a gate break near his location. Identifying himself as a hunter, he approaches the scene, where a group of hunters is struggling to defeat a powerful monster. Despite their combined efforts, the group's attacks are ineffective. Observing the chaos, Sung notices Joo-hee among the hunters. He recognizes the fear in her eyes and steps forward. Without hesitation, Sung charges into the fray, sizing up the boss monster and realizing it isn't as strong as it seems. Using his broken sword, he hurls it at the creature, shattering its tough armor. The hunters are momentarily stunned, unable to determine who threw the blade. Sung quietly retreats, thinking that the golem boss had already been weakened by the hunters' earlier efforts. Joo-hee catches sight of Sung as he leaves, her expression a mix of relief and amazement. The hospital staff can't help but gossip about Sung Jin-woo. One of the nurses, curious about the rumors, steps into his room and is surprised by his well-built physique. Jin-woo, putting on his shirt, catches her staring. Embarrassed, she quickly informs him that he's being discharged today and needs to stop by the front desk to finalize his paperwork. As she leaves, she nervously asks for his number. Meanwhile, news reports feature a renowned C-rank hunter who emphasizes the importance of daily training to maintain peak performance. His sister Gina notices his newfound dedication and expresses her surprise, jokingly asking if he's turning into a fitness fanatic. Jin-woo playfully reminds her to take her umbrella before heading out. Later, Jin-woo evaluates his progress while completing his daily quests. He deliberates over which stats to improve, weighing his options carefully. Just as he finishes his morning run, he receives a call reminding him about an overdue payment. Financial pressure looms over him, pushing Jin-woo to consider how he can use his newfound strength to earn money without drawing too much attention. Jin-woo reflects on how effortlessly he can now kill goblins and begins strategizing about tackling higher-level dungeons. Shortly after, he receives an invitation to join a party for a raid. The group offers him 2 million won for his participation, but his role will simply be to carry their supplies. He agrees, seeing it as an opportunity to gather experience. When he arrives, Jin-woo meets Yoo Jin-ho, another low-rank hunter who seems out of place in his flashy and expensive armor. Jin-ho's enthusiasm is contagious, and despite his inexperience, he earnestly tries to fit in. Jin-woo takes on the task of carrying the group's heavy backpacks without complaint, observing their dynamics quietly. As they head toward the dungeon, the hunters are struck by the size of the gate. Jin-woo notes that he has never seen one this large before. Inside the dungeon, the atmosphere is eerily quiet, with no signs of monsters. One of the hunters explains the glowing stones around them, remarking that they're a valuable source of mana energy. Suddenly, Jin-woo hears faint noises ahead. Before he can warn the group, monsters descend from above, launching a surprise attack. The tank immediately taunts the monsters, drawing their attention and allowing the rest of the team to eliminate them efficiently. Jin-woo observes their flawless teamwork but feels uneasy, sensing something suspicious about the situation. Examining the monsters' corpses, Jin-woo notices bite marks on their bodies. He warns the group to stay vigilant, suspecting there might be something more dangerous nearby. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, Baek Yoon-ho, a high-ranking hunter, continues his training, shattering a massive stone with a single punch. Back in the dungeon, Jin-woo grows increasingly wary of the group. He finds it odd that they're raiding a dungeon without a healer, a decision that seems reckless at best. Eventually, they reach what appears to be the boss room. Inside, they discover an abundance of mana crystals, scattered around in piles. Jin-ho naively asks about the contract terms, pointing out that the crystals should be divided fairly among everyone. The leader reassures him, but Jin-woo remains skeptical. As they approach the slumbering boss, the leader orders the team to stand guard while he and a few others leave to fetch carts for the loot. Jin-woo's suspicions are confirmed when the group blocks the entrance to the boss room, effectively trapping him and Jin-ho inside. Jin-woo recalls stories of hunters using weaker individuals as bait for dungeon bosses. Realizing they've been betrayed, Jin-ho panics, but Jin-woo remains calm. The boss, a formidable beast radiating an ominous aura, awakens from its slumber. Jin-woo assesses its strength and determines it to be a C-rank boss. As the creature roars and charges, Jin-woo steps forward, telling Jin-ho to stay back. With unwavering resolve, he declares that he will handle the boss on his own. The leader, having exited the dungeon, contemplates the situation, thinking that the others will not be able to handle the boss. He and his team are already planning to profit from the death of Jin-woo and his companions. The leader wonders aloud whether any of his own team could have killed the boss on their own, doubting their chances, since he believes all previous bosses were of a lower rank. Inside the dungeon, Jin-woo is unfazed by the threat the boss poses. As he faces off with the giant spider boss, he remains calm, knowing the fight will not be as difficult as others believe. The spider attacks, and Jin-woo strikes back. Meanwhile, outside the dungeon, the manager of hunters is traveling home after a series of meetings, and his assistant asks for the opportunity to test his own strength in battle. Back inside, Jin-woo continues to fight, determined. He realizes that the boss's armor is too tough to break through with his regular attacks. He then activates his dagger's abilities, using a special skill to strike. The spider retaliates by spitting acid at him, but Jin-woo uses his dash skill, striking it in the head. Jin-ho-yu, watching from the sidelines, notices that while Jin-woo is fast, he may not have enough stamina to finish the fight. Jin-woo uses his stamina recovery ability and keeps attacking, landing a critical hit that causes paralysis and bleeding in the boss. After a long struggle, Jin-woo finally defeats the boss and levels up. Jin-ho-yu is stunned by Jin-woo's power. Realizing that the young man's rank may be a fake one, he's astonished at how quickly Jin-woo handled the boss. The group that had abandoned Jin-woo and Jin-ho-yu is shocked to find them both still alive. Meanwhile, Gun-hee-go reflects on the training he's undergone, recognizing that dedication to his training has made him far stronger than they anticipated. As the group discusses their next move, they begin to entertain the idea of robbing Jinwoo. The leader commands his team to kill Jinwoo. The group draws their swords, and Jinho-yu steps in to defend his new ally. Jinwoo, sensing the imminent danger, accepts the inevitability of the situation and prepares himself for the fight. However, his attackers start using magic against him. Back in the city, a group of girls discusses their experiences in the dungeon. They talk about how they couldn't even handle monsters of rank E, but a girl from rank A easily dispatched them. They mention rumors of high-ranking hunters dying in dungeons, which gives Jinwoo pause. He realizes that the strong prey on the weak, and it is a harsh world where survival is uncertain. The group of traitors thinks that Jinwoo is already dead, unaware that he's still standing. The system prompts him to kill the traitors, and Jinwoo rises to his feet, now fully aware that the system wants him to eliminate these threats. He approaches the group, telling them they should be ready for the consequences of their actions. One of the traitors calls Jinwoo weak, but before he can react, Jinwoo kills one of them with ease. Realizing that there is no turning back, Jinwoo continues to eliminate them one by one. In the end, only one man is left standing. The leader, realizing he's no match for Jinwoo's power, tries to retreat, but is swiftly knocked to the ground and pinned there. The leader pleads for his life, begging Jinwoo not to kill him, but Jinwoo coldly replies that the leader tried to kill him 3 times. Jinwoo assures him that no one will ever know what happened in the dungeon. With the last of the traitors eliminated, Jinwoo walks away, leaving no trace behind. Jinho-yu, deeply shaken by the events, is disgusted by the brutal violence. As they exit the dungeon, the group reports to the authorities that only Jinwoo and Jinho-yu survived. One of the girls speculates that Jinwoo's gear might have been what kept them alive, while the rank E hunter had simply hidden. Jinwoo receives a special ability for killing humans, a sign that the system is continuously evolving with his actions. Jinchul-woo reports on the dungeon where 6 hunters perished. He and his team are puzzled, wondering what went wrong, especially since Jinwoo was one of the survivors in that same dungeon. After the report, Jinwoo returns home, where his sister greets him. Jinwoo tells her that he earned a lot of money which he plans to use for their mother's treatment. Han, his sister, asks about the dungeon, suspecting that he must have encountered a strong team of hunters there. Jinwoo, however, remembers the disturbing events he experienced, the lives he ended with ease, mocking his foes as he did so. He's not exactly shaken by the memory. Jinwoo sits down, drinking beer, but he realizes that he's not getting drunk. While pondering his situation, he opens his skills menu and finds a new reward, Blessing, which seems to be the reason he survived the dungeon. That night, he receives a phone call. It's Jinho-yu, who thanks him for his help, and mentions that he plans to assemble his own team. However, Jinwoo is not interested in joining. Jinho-yu, not giving up, pleads for him to listen. He asks Jinwoo for help in forming his own guild, which will require clearing 20 dungeons. Jinwoo thinks to himself that Jinho-yu seems to want to make him the leader of a guild full of rank B hunters. Jinho-yu is determined to raise his own strength, and after reading the contract, he realizes that if he clears the 20 dungeons, he will receive a payment of 30 billion won. Jinwoo, however, refuses the offer, but Jinho-yu counters, telling him that if he agrees to help, Jinwoo's secret will remain safe. Meanwhile, Dongsu Hwang is reading through a dossier, realizing that his older brother has been killed. He's troubled by the thought of what would happen if he were to kill someone overseas, but is reassured that if he cooperates with the government, his sentence will be reduced. He notes down his schedule, planning his next move, and hoping for the best when his free time arrives. Jinwoo continues to train with his sister, and while doing so, he asks her what she would do with 30 billion won if she had it. His sister replies that she would spend it on their mother's treatment, and then on her education. Jinwoo runs more than the task requires, realizing that the quest is still being completed. He has exceeded the goal and, as a result, receives a secret quest. After opening a blessed loot box, he receives a devil's key of rank C. The box also reveals that there is an elixir inside the dungeon that can cure any illness. Intrigued, Jinwoo enters the dungeon and immediately notices a 3-headed monster. Without hesitation, he charges at it, but his attacks don't seem to do much damage. He applies a paralysis skill, but the creature counters and knocks him back. Jinwoo sees a warning notification indicating that the monster has become twice as powerful. Despite this, Jinwoo continues attacking, aiming for one of the monster's eyes. He manages to hit the target, but he takes even more damage as the creature retaliates. Realizing that his damage output is insufficient, Jinwoo is warned of the growing danger. Desperate, he attempts to use a teleportation crystal, but the monster knocks it from his hands. Jinwoo then buys a healing potion from the dungeon shop, drinking it to restore some of his health. He recalls the poison he had earlier consumed, but the potion helps stave off its effects. Jinwoo continues his relentless assault on the monster, despite the injuries he's sustained. His health is running low, but his determination drives him to strike the monster in the eye once more. After landing the final blow, low, he defeats the three-headed creature, gaining a significant amount of experience and several levels. From the monster's body, Jinwoo obtains a gate key and a recipe for creating a life elixir. With this newfound knowledge, he realizes that he doesn't have the strength to venture into the castle right away. Jinwoo looks over the recipe description, realizing that he needs to gather 3 specific components. He understands that going to collect them would be suicidal. Determined, he messages Jinho Yu, telling him that he is ready to clear 20 dungeons, but only on the condition that they do it together. Jinwoo asks him to recruit weaker hunters with no history of failures. Jinho Yu agrees to the terms. Meanwhile, Haeuncha is training when she notices someone is watching her. Her manager approaches and invites her to talk. Jinwoo's quest to increase his power continues, but he begins to realize that his tasks no longer offer the same rewards they once did. Jinho Yu's father discusses the corporate interests behind hunters, stating that companies send them to collect resources and are essentially monopolizing the industry. He suggests that to take the initiative, they must start their own guild. However, Jinho Yu finds the idea risky and uncertain. Jinwoo, still focused on his growth, continues training. He realizes that he is no longer receiving extra rewards for overachieving his quests. Then he receives a text message notifying him about a hunt more the dungeon. Chiul Song, meanwhile, continues his intense training. Despite losing a hand in a previous battle, he gets a message and learns that someone has suggested he consider retiring. Chiul, however, says that he still wants to help people. Kim, another hunter, receives a message from his wife asking him to find another job, one that doesn't risk his life. His daughter hugs him as he expresses the family's need for money. His wife apologizes for the request, but it's clear that their situation is difficult. Yunho Baek is arguing with Jong In Choi over a meeting where Baek felt Choi was wasting time, given his busy schedule. Choi hands Baek a book and informs him that the family of Jinho Yu wants to start a new guild. Baek is frustrated by the indirect approach and the delays. Juhee receives a call from her mother, who is worried about her daughter's safety. Her mother urges her to return home, suggesting that Juhee is just getting in the way in her current team. This upsets Juhee. Cha tells Choi that during her training, someone asked her to take over leadership of a guild, but she quickly refused. Choi then inquires about an island that was buried after monsters appeared there, with people trying to cover it up. Choi expresses a desire to clear the island of monsters. He also believes that Baek must have lost something there as well. Jinwoo heads out for training again, this time not accompanied by his sister. Chiul reflects on the challenges of being a swordsman with only one hand. He meets Jinwoo and is shocked by how much Jinwoo has changed. Chiul wonders if Jinwoo has lost his leg and was healed by a healer, as he appears significantly stronger than before. All the hunters from the previous dungeon raid are gathered, where they all feel somewhat embarrassed to face one another. Juhee doesn't recognize Jinwoo at first. Soon a vehicle arrives, carrying a group of prisoners. The team is informed that the prisoners will assist with the raid due to a shortage of hands. Jinwoo asks Juhee to refuse their help, but she is against it. Taeshik Kang, a member of the team, states that he will keep a close eye on the prisoners. Chiul, showing his gratitude to Jinwoo, asks if he can take command of the group for the raid. The others agree, and they enter the dungeon together. Inside the dungeon, the group is attacked by goblins, and the prisoners swiftly kill them. Everyone notices that Jinwoo has become noticeably stronger. Chiyul comments on Jinwoo's change, observing how confidently he now behaves, almost as if he's on a leisurely stroll. The group decides to split into 3 teams. Jinwoo suggests taking the left path. Kim, assuming that the weaker weapons mean the dungeon is easier, remarks that once the dungeon is cleared, he will apologize to Jinwoo. He regrets abandoning Jinwoo during their previous raid. Taeshik Kang asks the others if they would have killed the goblins if they were humans instead. The prisoners respond that there is no difference. Kang recalls a conversation with a man whose daughter was raped. The man had given him money, asking Kang to kill the prisoners in exchange. Kim notices that Kang is indeed killing the prisoners. Jinwoo hears a scream and rushes to help, finding that another group has been wiped out. Kim apologizes to Jinwoo, but they are suddenly attacked by Kang, who is interrupted by Jinwoo. Kang mutters that he had imagined a story where he would survive. Chiyul steps forward, saying that he can handle the situation and asking Jinwoo to let him take care of Kang. Kang lunges at the healer, but Chiyul deflects his attack. The commander tries to kill Kang with magic, but Kang dodges in time. Jinwoo notes that Kang is strong. Jinwoo saves him from death. He says that the guy is an E rank. Kang thinks that he is hiding his strength and that he has awakened twice. He remembers that snotty E. Kang reveals that the prisoners were paid to kill Jinwoo and the others. Jinwoo demands to know why Kang had tortured his friends. He then launches into a battle with Kang. Chiyul observes Jinwoo's remarkable growth, amazed at how much stronger he's become. Kang, confident that he is stronger, tries to fight back, but Jinwoo explains that the system has reacted to him. Kang then disappears. using his stealth skills. Jinwoo mocks him, asking how long Kang will keep running his mouth while Jinwoo fully recovers. Jinwoo warns that he will kill Kang and with a swift strike easily fends off Kang's attacks before killing him. As Kang dies, he explains that he killed the others because it was natural selection. Jinwoo responds coldly, stating that he's a hunter who grows stronger each day, and he's only getting started. While inspecting the area, Jinwoo discovers a runestone. He realizes that the stronger he becomes, the more something inside of him seems to break. Despite this, he declares that he will personally finish clearing the dungeon. Jin Chul-woo arrives at the site, realizing that his subordinate has become a killer. He asks who among the group killed Kang. Chi-yeol lies, claiming that he was the one who killed Kang with Ju-hee's help. Ju-hee then shows the crystal that Jinwoo had given her during their first dungeon raid as proof of his involvement in the dungeon's events. Ju-hee notices how much Jinwoo has changed. She recalls their first meeting and how she had always been the one to heal him. She tells him that she has decided to leave the hunter life behind and return to her parents. She hands him back the crystal he had given her earlier. After the dungeon raid, Jinwoo is approached by Jin Chul-woo, who expresses disbelief that a C-rank hunter could have killed a B-rank hunter. Woo warns Jinwoo to be more cautious in the dungeon where Dongsu Huang's brother died. He adds that Huang's family will be seeking revenge. Meanwhile, Jin Ho-yu has gathered a new team, composed mainly of the weak and a few drunks. Ju-hee remarks that he even brought along a student. Jin Ho-yu claims that they will receive 3 million for each raid. Ju-hee uses the crystal obtained from killing Kang. Yu suits up in the best armor available. Ju-hee, unimpressed, tells him to get rid of the junk armor he's wearing. The group notices that Jin-woo and Ju-hee are going into the dungeon together. 30 minutes later, they assume the pair has run away, but the portal closes behind them, leaving the group shocked. They proceed to the next dungeon. Ju-hee effortlessly clears dungeon after dungeon, rapidly leveling up. Jin Ho-yu observes Jin-woo, realizing how much stronger he has become. Ju-hee gains the skill Dagger Mastery and decides to focus on improving his intelligence. Ju-hee is notified that he has reached a new level and is given a quest to advance further. The guild leaders start to notice that Jin Ho-yu's family has bought up all the dungeons, sensing something suspicious about this. The leaders speculate that Ju-hee has awakened, and Sangmin An, one of the leaders, wants to recruit him and offer a signing contract. They observe the hunters setting up camp. Han comments that she is part of the squad, and An realizes she is talking about a superstar. Ju-hee plans some activities for the next day and decides to postpone his appointment. Meanwhile, Choi dreams of a terrifying dungeon raid. Ju-hee, after finishing his business, is approached by someone from the White Tiger organization. An offers him a spot in their guild, promising to pay him twice as much. Ju-hee asks how much the guild headquarters would cost, but An doesn't respond directly. Ju-hee mentions that for his help he's been promised 30 billion, which catches An off guard. Ju-hee inquires how An knew about him, demonstrates his stealth skill. Ju-hee warns him not to turn around. An admits he's been keeping track of who's buying the gates. Ju-hee tells him that he doesn't want to attract attention and threatens An, apologizing for any inconvenience caused by occupying the gates. Ju-hee offers to sell the gates to An for 300 million each. An agrees to purchase 3 dungeons for a total of 600 million. Ju-hee hands over a healing potion that alleviates An's injury. An's assistant approaches, and An informs him that they've found gold. Ju-hee discusses the gates sale, and An realizes that they've been deceived about the gates. Ju-hee sends a text message confirming that he knew they were tracking him. Finally, Ju-hee sets off on a quest to change his profession. Ju-hee ventures farther from the city to ensure safety. Suddenly, a gate appears before him. Meanwhile, Jin Ho-yu is having a meal with his father when his older brother enters. As they talk, Ju-hee continues his journey through the dungeon, no longer able to use healing skills. As he progresses, he encounters a monster in armor, but his attacks don't even leave a scratch on its surface. He tries stabbing the monster in the chest with his dagger, but it proves ineffective. The monster retaliates with overwhelming power, and more enemies begin to approach Ju-hee. Myung-han-yu asks his older brother about the progress of their guild's formation. He mentions that all the S-rank hunters have rejected their offers, but the overseas hunters are ready to sign contracts. Jin Ho-yu listens carefully, but withholds information about his powerful allies. Meanwhile, Ju-hee observes that each monster he faces seems to have unique abilities. Some have invisibility, others wield bows or magic. He realizes that intelligence will be crucial in fighting the mages. Ju-hee's exhaustion grows steadily as he pushes forward. At the same time, the S-rank team is preparing to go to clear the island. Ju-hee decides to try on some armor, which turns out to be invisible. This gives him the boost he needs to recover from his fatigue and press onward. When he opens another gate, entering the room, he recognizes the familiar sensation and notices the commander, whose name is marked in red. A fierce battle ensues, and the commander starts destroying columns like their branches, attacking Juhi. Juhi attempts to strike back but finds that the knight can dodge his every move. The knight's speed matches his own, but his strength far surpasses Juhi's. Realizing his disadvantage, Juhi decides to fight without his weapon, and to his surprise, the knight also discards his sword. Gun-Hee-Go is reviewing reports when Jinchul Wu enters. At the same time, he receives a call from Choi, notifying him that everything is ready. Gun-Hee advises caution, but Ju-Hee is already deep in battle, struggling to keep up with his opponent's superior strength. He blocks the knight's attacks, but it becomes clear that he is physically outmatched. In a moment of inspiration, Ju-Hee focuses on increasing his speed, but even then, he still can't quite match the knight. The fight continues, and when Ju-Hee finally strikes the knight, it causes the commander to awaken even more powerful abilities. The knight charges at him, landing multiple blows. Exhausted, Ju-Hee collapses onto a throne to rest. While at home, Gina prepares lunch for her brother, and their mother lies ill in the hospital. The knight, determined to finish Ju-Hee off, grabs his sword. But Ju-Hee, with a burst of strength, seizes the knight's sword hand, uses his dagger, and stabs the knight in the eye. With everything he has left, Ju-Hee pierces through the knight's armor, killing him with a fatal blow to the neck. Just as he catches his breath, a notification appears on Ju-Hee's screen, confirming that he has defeated the knight. He receives 4 rewards, including an S-rank helmet and an instant teleportation stone. However, he soon realizes that his profession change quest hasn't been completed yet, and he must hold out for as long as possible. More ordinary guards emerge from the portals, and Ju-Hee quickly eliminates them one by one. He tries to use his stealth skill but is soon detected. Running low on mana, he struggles to fight off the knights. In a last-ditch effort, he prepares to teleport, but the crystal is knocked out of his hands just as he's about to activate it. Ju-Hee realizes that to survive, he must fight through the overwhelming number of enemies, even though he feels exhausted and weak. With his hands covered in blood from the constant fighting, he remembers how others had once called him the weakest weapon of humanity. Suddenly he faces Kang, who taunts him, saying that it's futile for someone of his rank to aim higher. Gun-Hee recalls the tragic raid on the island, where many perished. Ju-Hee is on the brink of death, but just before he is struck down, he is transported to a penalty zone for failing to complete his daily tasks. He sheds his exhaustion and realizes that the potions he has are useless in healing him. With no other choice, Ju-Hee begins fighting the creatures surrounding him. Meanwhile, Gina wakes up and notices her brother hasn't returned yet. She goes back to sleep, unaware of the danger he's in. As Ju-Hee gains more levels, his health is restored. He purchases an expensive dagger and breaks the runestone he acquired from one of the guards, discovering that this skill doesn't require mana. He now has the ability to pull objects toward him. Ju-Hee returns to the dungeon and notices an even greater number of knights waiting for him. A squad of high-ranking hunters approaches the island, detecting multiple mana sources. With the help of his sword, Ju-Hee is able to fight more efficiently. He soon realizes that mages are summoning the knights, and killing the mages is crucial to stop the endless onslaught. He cuts through the knights one by one, making his way through the thick of them. Just then, a massive golem appears. Ju-Hee activates his lantern skill and slays the last 2 mages. With renewed focus, he pierces the golem's armor and defeats it, though he is severely fatigued after completing the quest. The system recognizes that Ju-Hee is fighting alone and grants him a new profession, solo player. With this, he gains the ability to control an army of shadows, becoming a necromancer. As a new necromancer, Ju-Hee is astonished by his abilities, especially considering he hasn't even trained his intelligence stat yet. A prompt appears, presenting a hidden class, but Ju-Hee doesn't hesitate and accepts it. He begins exploring his new skills and realizes that he can now control shadows without having to level them up alone. Back in the city, Gun-Hee enjoys a cup of coffee while discussing matters with his assistant. Meanwhile, Ju-Hee receives numerous rewards for his efforts, defeating countless enemies and completing the quest without using teleportation. As a result, he is immediately granted the Shadow Lord class, and he creates his first shadow army. Excited by his new abilities, Ju-Hee examines his unique skills. He realizes that he can resurrect commanders and other fallen warriors, and decides to bring back the commander of the knights he defeated. With only 2 attempts left, he uses one more, and after his final attempt, he successfully revives the knight. He names him Igris, and the knight pledges to serve him. As Ju-Hee looks at his new ally, Gun-Hee remarks that while they are conversing, a powerful hunter may be awakening somewhere in the world.